I have no sound. Okay, I'm unmuted. Yes, but I can't hear you. Wait a minute. Yeah, Susan, I can't hear you. I can hear myself. Should I jump off and on again? Would that help?
If I do
Oh,
the
yes, now I have sound. Now I can hear you.
okay.
Yay!
Yeah, good. Okay, hello. Sorry about that. Hi,
No worries.
welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited. This is a
Yes, me
great
too.
start to the day.
Good, good. And you're in California now, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah,
I am.
good. Sun is shining, birds are singing.
Construction workers or constructing, yes. Yes, it is a beautiful day in the neighborhood. I have closed everything to make like it more soundproof, but I mean, I don't think you can hear it, but I'm hoping that no helicopters or nothing will like circle closer. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good then. So, well, and you never know. So you might hear the church bell ringing by my house, and sometimes my
Mm,
kids scream at the TV, and dogs bark and things.
yes.
Life, you know. So it has been a while since I've had you on the show, and you were one of my favorite people to have on here. And that was right when your book was coming out.
Oh yeah, it was a while ago, right? Like,
Yeah.
yes.
You were still, I think, in New York and you were getting ready to move.
Yeah, it must be like a year and a half or like, yeah, that long ago. A
Wow.
lot has changed
Oh, yeah.
and
Well,
shifted.
life happens, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So we are in this really interesting. There's so much going on because I was thinking about it right before we got on the show. We've got, 2021 is a year. We have um, some interesting transformations going on in the United States and around the world, if you think about it in
Mm.
terms of everything that's going on. So, as a numerologist, what is your take on this whole big thing
This whole
going
thing.
on?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think one of the things that we don't always want to talk about, both as numerologists or I think astrologers too, is that like, um, unfortunately, like things doesn't magically change. Um, you know, New Year's at 12 midnight. Actually, we have, when we look at the overlaps of the year, the first like 2 to 3 months are an overlap from last year, and a new year really starts around like the astrological new year, which is like late March. So
Right.
what's happening right now is kind of the overlay of the 4 year that we just had, 2020, very rebellious, very questioning, very like not faithful to authorities, very just like, like I don't know what the age is for kids when they just ask why all the time. Why? But
Really poor.
why? Like why? And the four energy is very like, but why? And I think I was listening to astrologer talk about like the juxtaposition between like the people who want to follow whatever the rule is and decide whoever their leader is and be like, we need to do this, and then the other energy that will always just be like, but why? And will always need like a deeper explanation or something more emphatic or something more inclusive. And right now we're seeing an overlay between this 4 year, and I'm really expecting, I will say that, like, I think I have written a forecast on 2021, and I didn't know how much time I should spend on the fact that I just feel tantrums brewing. And I see the tantrums in our leaders, especially in the US right now. Like what we're seeing is, a tantrum from the grown-ups being like, no, I want it this way. I don't want it the other way. And I'm sorry to do the baby voice, but that's really what's happening. And in this overlay, we will see both like leaders, but also just everyone have their little tantrums because we are also reacting to when the vaccine is like more rolled out and like people feel more safe and travel might be easier, then we will react to the trauma that we just went through, and people will be, it's the roaring 20s. People will react to what they just went through and they will need to release, and some of that is going to be super productive and helpful and ingenious and like innovative and like new ideas and ways of solving problems, and others are just going to be destructive little temper tantrums. Like I'm expecting the 4th of July this year in the US to go a little crazy because I think people need to blow off some steam, and the fireworks are going to be like big because like energetically there's a buildup. There's been a buildup of energy in 2020, and 2021 is way less grounded. Energetically, it's lighter and quicker. It's a 5 energy, and 5 is Mercury and communication and exchange. And there's a quickness and a quick response in this year where I think for many 2020 has been felt like pushing a boulder. And sure, it did move once in a while, and it wasn't just a shit show all the time. Like there were times where it was like, oh my God, I am like learning I have more strength than I knew I had. I knew I had like more energy. I am more resourceful. I will find a way. Like I think a lot of people realize like, oh, no one is coming to help me. I will have to solve this problem for myself. And then they did. And that like there is a resilience, like we learn a lot from a year like 2020, but the reaction I think is going to be kind of interesting. Also, I mean, just for the generations who, spent like their late youth, like the people who are 18 and 19 now, their reactions will also come in their 20s, not just this year.
Right.
Yeah.
So you, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but part of me gets like a visual representation for the numbers. And I always see 4 as like a square. It's sturdy, it's practical, it's, it's square. And then there's that emperor energy that goes along with that being a tarot reader. But I might be looking at this totally in a different way than you, because
I think it can be easy to look at the perfected version of the energy, because like the 4 energy is also about creating stable foundations and building things and being thorough. But I will say that mostly we see the lower end of that spectrum, which is like, okay, so like every number is a spectrum. On the highest level, we all realize we're doing the work, we're following our purpose, we understand our shadow, we have a sense as people, but also as like the energy in the world of like, oh, this is happening because they are challenged, or this is happening because they don't feel loved, or we can't walk in other people's shoes, but like the more we know ourselves, the more we're like, oh, you're different than me. Interesting. Like, how can I help you? And the 4 energy, when it does not believe in itself, when it's been less than supported through life, if that makes sense, will spend more time saying, I am not part of this, than claiming the things they are a part of. And this goes for people in the energy in general. So like when the 4 energy is strong, we question our relationship to the groups we're part of, and we might reignite passions with things that are dramatic in some way, because also there's like the radicalization of things is very 4. Like pandemics are also 4, like things spreading like wildfire, ideas, and there is like a real threat to the future. Like there's a very innovative, like being on the edge of tomorrow energy, and this is why 4s need to build, and why we need to build in 4 years, because we can see into the future. Like, I mean, 2020 was like, I know many people are like, well, I can't wait until it goes back to normal. But this was a year that like really showed a lot of weakness in our systems, in our foundations, in our contingency plans. Like just really revealed the weakness in the structure. And that's the thing, like the master builder, or like when you think about it, yeah, the square, like it's also the shape of a house, it's like foundation work, but that really can't happen if we're on rocky ground.
Right.
And I will say that most people are on more rocky ground than they think. And also, the only true constant is change. If there was a mantra for the 4, then that would be it. The only true constant is change. So like being able to pivot is also very 4. Like, the plan for your house, the plan for your life, the plan for your career, the plan for your motherhood, or the plan for whatever, your family, your friends, your relationships can change over time. And it's kind of like if we're building a house our entire lives, then the blueprint we started with is not how it's going to look in the end.
Right.
Yeah. I hope that makes sense to what you asked.
Well, totally. And also, seeing how that you brought it up, there's also an energy of the decade as well as the year that we're in. So you do like the decade we're in the 20s, but you're also adding up all of the numbers, because I can, and I might be totally wrong. I'm not the professional numerologist you are. So usually when I'm looking at the number for the year, I just do 2021, and that's my son running up downstairs. Sorry about that. That would be how I would kind of measure it. So, or how I would calculate the year.
Yeah, like when we look at the years, we look at the digit sum. So adding up all the numbers in the year, give us, for 2020, that was 4. For 2021, that's 5. And we just continue like that. We will go in 9-year cycles. So we are also now like about halfway through one. And that's also like sometimes when people are building things, they're thinking like, oh, I want to get it done. But everything moves in cycles. Like we can't really move faster than the energy moves. And yes, there are clues also inside the years. So the 21 in 2021 is a clue, and the 20 in 2020 is a clue. The overlap between numerology and the tarot, I think the numerology actually came first, and I think the people who created the tarot did it to preserve some of the imagery and stories that were used at that time. And 2020, in that 20, we have awakening the tarot card, awakening our judgment. I think it's the yeah.
20, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think sometimes looking at all the words assigned to a tarot card tells you some of the story that it's actually telling about the energy. 21 is the universe or the world. And that means that I mean, we will be tested in mastery this year. We will also be tested in I thought about it and I did not put it in my forecast because I thought it was a little too cheeky. But the very fact that so many people are homeschooling right now, because 21 in numerology is the teacher, the master. And I just thought, oh, we all get a lesson in that thing of how underpaid teachers are and how underappreciated, and how, I mean, what is more important than the people who takes care of the minds of the future and the hearts and bodies. And I really thought that it was just a cheeky little side effect of this pandemic, that so many people were forced into the teaching role, and also even teachers now having to homeschool their own kids and being like, I don't want to do this. This is not how I want to work. But we are getting that extra layer this year of mastery and teaching. And if anyone, I mean, I work for myself. I'm self-employed. I run my own business. And I think a lot of people, even though this is a scary time, will decide to be self-employed this year and be like, you know what, this system or this structure or this organization did not really help me. They were too slow moving. There was too much, I don't know, when you just tread water, like that feeling of like, nothing happened. No one moved fast enough and we're all just wasting time and I don't have the time for that. So now I'm going to go do my own thing. So like the test of our mastery will also be a theme this year. And also, just judging other people. Like, I mean, I thought of like when I became a teacher of numerology, I stepped out of the judger. When I was in class throughout my life, I had times where I would judge the other students and be like, how come you don't know this? Or how come you're not listening? Or how come whatever? And now in the role of the teacher, whenever there's a question where my former self would have been like, how come you don't know this? I'm like, how can I teach this better? How can I convey this idea? Maybe there must be a different way. The way that I find intuitive and logic is not logical to my student. How can I convey this differently?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's very, I think I'm very excited for 2021, but I can also say like, I mean, the challenges are unfortunately not over. When I looked at the energies, like last year was very much also marked by the tower in the tarot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think
Very,
we're seeing that really
yeah, marked by unpredictability and loss and change and surrender, and then one more round of that. And this year we are walking towards the star, which means that it is more memorable in certain ways, like where I think, 2020 was like a little bit of the nightmare, and now we woke up, and now some of the choices we make this year will really be like lasting, memorable. And on a global level, I mean, we have Brexit, we have a very volatile political climate in the US. Like there will be like some really memorable things this year that are also going to shape, this decade.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, and the future. But I feel like you bring up the tower and you bring up really, really fascinating concepts that I'm all like, yeah, I wish I could sit you in a room and we could talk for hours about this. Okay, but I love that you said surrender with the tower, first of all, because I think that as you're laying out all these points, people are going to be doing different jobs. They're going to want to be more independent and self-reliant in a way because, you work from home, I work from home. There's, more of a gig economy going on. But ultimately, the foundations that we are building everything on, and like you said, the 4 year was a building year. We realized that we built on a swamp, kind of. We built everything on something that wasn't very steady and firm. Um, but now we can accept that, hopefully, and move on from that, hopefully, and into this. Um, and I'm getting goosebumps and everything because the way you explained it was so fabulous. And then going into like the world is the end of one phase, the beginning of the next, like taking all of the lessons that we learned throughout the past and applying them to the present. And with the energy of like, and I didn't even think about that, like 21 being a 3 energy, being a 5 energy, being a 2 energy. And just to explain to the people who might not understand numerology so well, and I'm looking at it from like middle and you're looking at it from the teacher standpoint, like the 2 from the 2000 years, basically. The 2 plus the 1 for 21, and the 20s as a decade.
Yeah.
And so, but two is very common in this. And two to me is like polarities, black and white, no gray
Mm.
area.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure astrologers have a lot to say about this too. From a numerology standpoint, it matters that we stepped from counting years with a 1 as the first number into a 2 as the first number. 1 being connected to the sun, masculinity, patriarchy, masculine values, active, outward oriented, single minded is also like maybe one of the keywords. And 2 is connected to duality and the moon and more feminine principles. And sometimes when people talk about like the feminine or divine feminine rising, she does not just wake up one day when the year is finally 2000 and something. The waves rise over time. So like the awakening of the last 200 years like have like a pinnacle around right now and will like continue for the next 1,000 until we enter the 3,000 and then we enter another masculine cycle. And so the energy, and masculine does not mean gendered, it's more about like if the energy is outward oriented or more inward oriented, if it's more contained and receiving or active and doing. So there is whenever people talk about, be in your being, I think, I don't know, it's just interesting to see in the world how like people are rebelling against hustle culture and like doing, but in doing so, they become so in their feminine or so in their rest or so in their, I'm just going to manifest it, like whatever new age thing they slap on it, that they stop doing. And it is the balance between the two. And when we are in our 2000s and the 20s, balance is key, like not black and white, and also really like understanding, like we are more connected than ever. Like the internet has connected us in a whole different way, like the symbiosis that is actually happening, the spreading of ideas and images and things like revenge porn and horrible ways of hurting each other, where we can, like 100 years ago, I couldn't really hurt you sitting in my home. I could write you a letter. I maybe even couldn't call you on the phone. I'm sorry, I don't remember when the phone was invented, but I'm just saying, like, it was very hard to reach into the homes of other people and really hurt them, specifically. Apart from like letters and gossip, and that was like sure strong, but we are way more connected now, so we are also way more vulnerable. So like the playing rules and the rights of people will be also a theme. Like, you have rights on the internet. You should have rights. Like if someone violates your privacy or steals your ideas or shares pictures of you that are not okay or bullies your teen, there should be rules about this and there should be punishments. And I think as I see it moving into the 2000s is also like, we will need to be more responsible. And that's a challenge because people don't want to be responsible, and different countries don't want to get into the metal thing of like someone in my country did something horrible to someone in your country, but it was online. So I think also the development of more international rights and courts in some way like will have to be developed. And I know this was like kind of like a side road to take, but I think that's one of the things that we will see in, like a period of time, like 1,000 years. That's how long we're gonna count our
Right.
years with a 2 in front, like, and the softer values will be in focus. And
Right.
I also think like something, I don't want to talk politics, but someone like Trump who speaks to the base nature in certain people would not have been able to do that uh, 25 years ago in the same way.
I disagree with that though.
You think he would?
Oh yeah, I think that there would have been a base. I don't think necessarily that it would have been allowed to be so open, but I
Mm,
don't think that there was so much of a shift in ideology in a lot of um, this might even be a conversation for a different day, but a shift in the ideology of like, I don't want to say the common person because I don't want to like say, but I really think that I come from Northwest Indiana where there was still up until my high school period a lot of segregation by
mm,
neighborhood, a lot of, and it's still an area that has a really, I mean, if you go, like if you look up the history of Gary, Indiana, and the steel mills and everything like that, um, where ingrained in the society was a specific kind of us against them.
yeah.
A lot of it was ethnicity,
Mm,
race based stuff. And so in many places, outside of the metropolitan areas, that would have been just, openly, kind of. I think there's a city in like Delaware, and I'll have to look at this on the internet somewhere. I was looking at it the other day, where if you're a black person and you're out in the streets after dusk, they have a law that people in the neighborhood can shoot you.
wow.
And
Yeah.
so these kind of things. So it was underground, but
I think that's also maybe my point with it, like uh, racism, white privilege, and white supremacy is nothing new. But I feel when I look at it, like the rawness and the true face of it has
mhm,
been shown way more. And like,
okay,
I mean, I think that's also the, again, like 100 years ago, if you shot a black person, there would be very little consequences and there would be very little uproar from people beyond a certain group. There's just not be a lot of echo.
right,
And what we're seeing when things are more connected is that like the echo also changes the shot or the sound or the energy. So like by having a bigger echo chamber, like by the world being more connected, the US is also mirroring itself. Like, oh, like, yeah, I think, I don't think I'm going to see it in my lifetime, unfortunately. I think I'm going to see great strides towards equality. I think I'm going to see great strides towards it, but we are still in the fumbling stages. Whenever people talk about great progress, I'm like, yeah, not really. But we are fumbling in the right direction, and the more people who think about justice and baking it into their companies and organizations and institutions, even in places where they're not forced to by an overwhelming request, like the fact that people are, changing the name of ice creams and stuff like that, and like brands without there actually being like a media storm, but more that like it's a general wave of people going like, this could maybe be problematic. We're gonna work on that now. I see that, like, I mean, who knows? Maybe we will also eradicate dick pics in the next 50 years. Like I'm seeing like the fumbling energy of the more visible it becomes, the more echo and reaction to it happens. And that means that, yeah, I don't know if I'm making sense. Like, I do think that we will see change, because I do think that like the face of inequality is more visible in the face of
Right.
hate. Yeah.
Well, and that's all part of, everybody having access to a phone and a camera and being able to record and automatically upload it. You can do that right on live on the internet. So people are like, you can't you can't brush that away so easily. It's
You
just like,
can't hide. That's also whenever I see people act like total fools, I'm like, if I was your prospective employer, I'd Google your name. And I mean, if I was running a bigger business, I would most definitely hire someone to do like an internet background check, because I wouldn't want to hire someone who would be like media risk of
right.
like figuring out that this person has like a tendency to write very problematic comments on certain things. So whenever people like reveal themselves, like I don't believe in cancel culture. I think we have a lot of yeah, I feel like a lot of people need to like upbringing. I'm like, you were not raised right, but now you're a grown up, so we need to raise you. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to cancel you. I don't want to expel you. I don't want to send you to an island. I need everyone to like speak to each other and explain like, why is this not okay? Why don't we speak to other people like that way? Why don't we like sexual violence? Like, we don't incite that stuff. We don't talk about people that way. Like, there's an upbringing that needs to happen, and I hope that people at some point will also realize like, yeah, the internet is also forever.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know.
Hopefully. I mean, that's one of the things too that, kind of one hopes that all of the information that we're putting up there, because I feel like for things like numerology and tarot and um, witchcraft and paganism and things like that, right now we're in this beautiful place where we can have open conversations
Mm,
and not worry about having a pitchfork party on
yes.
our lawn, at 2 o'clock in the morning. And so, but I think that there were other times, and perhaps in the other feminine centuries, where they had made a lot of progress and where they had learned a lot of things. And then it just got, like the burning of the libraries in Alexandria, and a lot of information got lost that was
Yeah.
very important to human development.
Yeah. I mean, I also do see like I think a mental note, like I know we're talking about general things, like I would say this year, make sure to uh, save your save your hard copies of things, and like make sure you have more than one cloud. Like, when this is a Mercury year, that also means that our Mercury retrograde periods are going to be more intense. So when people are like, "Oh, it's a money year, it's a curiosity year," it's like we're gonna do all these things. I'm like, yeah, and you're also gonna get challenged. You're gonna get a test of your terms and conditions. You're gonna be asked for the refund. You're gonna find out like, where did I leave my client notes? Like, why are they gone? And I would even think that there might be some things this year with like, yeah, the internet having problems. At certain points. So I would also just, again, the only constant is change. So just in case you couldn't access the internet, then what would your business then look like? It is that thing of like, you don't put all your eggs in one basket. Diversify your income streams if you are, become a serial entrepreneur, invest in different things, just buy a small stock portfolio or something. Like, don't think just in one term of income, because also like when communication is the theme, then challenges in communications will also be a theme, and like based on people's own base numbers and names and astrology charts and where they are in the world, like this will look different for each individual. I'm
Oh,
just
that's
like,
awesome.
do a backup. do a backup.
Well, that's good advice, definitely. And if somebody wanted to check out their name, they could just book an appointment with you and get
Yes,
all.
go to my website, sign up for my newsletter, get that in. I have a book. Wait a minute, I have
Have
a
a book.
book. I'm going to wave the book around. I have a book.
Good. Yes. Yes. Because I need to do
Where,
a book review, and I have the Kindle copy of
mm,
it.
yes.
Yeah.
The Kindle copy is cute too, but I do think that like when one can get, of course, I am a reader too, so like when you can get a hard copy of a book, then that's fun.
Yeah.
I
Well,
am the post-it person. I'm like with little post-its because I don't really want to write in my books, so they're just filled with little post-its, and they get thicker and thicker over time because I'm like, oh, check this thing, and yeah, it's good.
but I love that. That's totally cool. And some books you just need a like some books I can read through and I can read them on my Kindle and it's fine, but other books you just need a copy to flip back and forth through, and Kindle doesn't make it really easy. And like you said, if you're marking things, I'm a big like dog earing my pages. I turn
Yeah.
yeah.
But that's why like I have post-its in different colors for different things where I'm like, if it's a bright blue one, then it's like you need to look this up. And then I got my normal post-its that are just like comments. But then once in a while when I'm like trying to not pick up a screen, I will pick up one of my books and look for one of the blue post-its because I'm like, you were interested in this. This was like a mental note of like, look this up later, and then I will be able to do that. Distract yourself from the screens too. I will say that.
Oh yeah, because especially in a Mercury time, do you feel like communication is going to become a little bit overwhelming in this year? Do you feel like it's going to take on a different
Yeah, I mean, one of the if you have the base number 5, and in numerology, our base numbers are based on our birth date, the day, not the year, not the month, just the day. So if you are a base number 5, meaning you're born on the 5th, the 14th, or the 23rd, and you would have a different base number if you were born on a different date, and you just look for the digit sum, and then you know what your base number is. But if you are a 5, then you already know that your nervous system is part of your like can be part of the challenges, and like insomnia or just like mental chatter. It can be hard to quiet down. It can be hard, like the fear of missing out is real for most 5s. So when the year is a 5, then that part of the 5 energy is also in focus. So getting our rest, getting our sleep, not being afraid of missing out on anything, um, knowing that we can rewatch the replay, and also knowing that like, I mean, we got such a lesson last year. I think lots of people who are very introverted actually had a pretty decent year because they were like, oh my God, I don't have to leave my house. Yes. And I don't have to interact. Yes. And this year we'll see more openings later in the year, but we can't kind of like if we don't have a backlog we need to get through. You don't have to go so hard. You still need your rest. Mental health is also really in focus this year. Um, I feel very bad for a lot of young kids who maybe come from troubled homes and couldn't really get the peace of going to school or peace of going to an after school activity. Um, I think mental health will also just be like a thing we have to take care of each other this year and take care of ourselves and be okay with having a virtual therapist if that's the way to go, or organizing, online get-togethers and watching movies. And I mean, for all the people who become new moms this year and can't meet up with a mommy group or something, like make sure that you get help, because I think like there's lots of transitions. People are still having kids, they're getting new jobs, they're like graduating, and we all need help and human companionship and someone to like play ball with. And like mental health is also like being seen and heard and being with other people. So take care of your mental health this year.
True.
A
Yeah.
nap. Take naps. That goes for all my fives too. Take naps. They're good for you.
I think they're good for everybody too, though. So,
Yeah.
and with everything, because I could ask you a bazillion different questions, of course, but um, do I ask, have you run Trump's number and where's he at and what's his information? Or should I just avoid that one
So
completely?
I did.
Ooh,
The
you're
thing with numerology is that while the numbers are the same, we are all individuals. So even though there are general things you can say about all people, I could say general things about all. I could also say general things about Trump just based on his base numbers. I did look because I was scared and interested at the same time. I did look back at the time for him around when he won his last election, which was not this one. He did not win this one, no matter what he says.
right.
So I looked at the themes that he went through, and he was incredibly lucky. He was one of the things you can calculate in numerology are yearly cycles, and Trump's yearly cycle when he got elected was extreme luck. And I was like, oh, damn. That is also like, I mean, while there are lots of things we can control, luck and having the wind at your back is not something that is determined by how good a person you are or anything like that. Sometimes we are lucky, and there is such a thing as luck. There just is.
Right.
Chance, fate, destiny, whatever you want to call it. And then when I did the yearly calculations for him and Pence and Kamala and Biden and just for all the people, I thought, like, let's see how it's looking. And Pence and Trump are a power couple, if one could say so in numerology. Very much people who make their own fortune, make their own path, decide what success looks like for them, which is, if one wants to learn something from that, it is that thing of like conviction really gets you somewhere. Lots of people question if they're worthy of their dreams. They question if they have what it takes. They question if people want to listen to them. They question if they seem desperate if they go after what they want. And sometimes you can look at people who have the kind of setups that Trump and Pence have, and you're like, why even factor that into the equation? It doesn't actually matter if you think you're worthy. It matters if you go for it.
Right.
So I looked at the yearly cycles, and it just looked like a very tight race this year. Trump did not look lucky. He did not look lucky at all, and no one actually looked lucky this year. Like I think for most people, being a leader was challenging this year. Like no matter what happened, I think it was just a challenging year. So it very much looked like, just a tight race. But I mean, these next from January, these next 6 months look like incredibly troublesome for Trump. I would say there is also a lot of money theme. He is a 5. He is entering his own energy, and that's the full spectrum. And when we do that, when we enter a year that has the same energy as we do, everything is kind of amplified.
Okay.
So it's kind of a reckoning. And there looks to be some very serious like money themes, which I can't tell you what it is. It's very hard to like read in general, and I don't want to go into too much detail because I also think even though Trump is not my client, I think everyone deserves some privacy. But he is entering some themes about money and bills being due. And I'm thinking we will see that play out. And I'm also it's tantrum year. It's tantrum year for, and that sounds very basic, but like it's tantrum year, especially for people who are prone to throwing tantrums.
Right.
So we will see more of that. I mean, if we think that what happened during the last few days is another layer of crazy, then I'm just saying like there is even more coming. There's even more coming.
Oh yeah, because there's a spectrum of it. You see it from the people who refuse to wear a mask or refuse, and not even like, okay, I don't want to wear a mask, but they're having a tantrum about somebody else wearing a mask, and it's just like that is like toddler stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
total.
road rage. It's that thing of like where you like, you know, I think I say this often, like if we're having a good day and people are acting erratically, we can laugh. I'm like, oh my, whoa, okay, oh my God, what's happening there? But if we're having a bad day and someone does something, it is that like fueling the flame that like suddenly like the dragon comes out and we react in extreme ways, even though that's not even the person we're angry with. Like when people have, I live in LA, road rage is real. Sometimes I just wonder, like, dude, like yelling in your car, is that your therapy? Is that really how you get through it?
I have to admit, I've yelled in my car. Like my daughter learned gas pedal is on the right, and like like that. But it was never like getting up out of my car. Like I've come from, well, in Arizona, it was really bad. Like there was usually like road rage shooting
I
pretty much.
have seen people like roll down their windows and start
Oh
throwing trash at the other person. I'm like, you're just throwing it at the road. You realize that? Like, you're not even throwing it into the other car. Where I'm like,
right.
wow, the level of, and to me also, like, driving can be dangerous. You should keep your eyes on the road. Like, don't you have somewhere to go?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, and there's more than just these two people because in LA you have the super wide highways too, don't you? Like that are
Yes.
just like even.
Yes.
Yeah, I was there a couple times and I was just like, whoa, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, also theme for this year, keep your eyes on your own road. Don't don't worry so much about the other people in the road rage. Just do your thing.
Well, and is that's a part of that judgment energy too. When you sit there and you think about it, okay, this is like this judgment has nothing to do with anybody else and everything to do with me.
Yes.
And but like you said, there's this other side of it where it has everything to do with everybody else
Yes.
and nothing to do with me.
Yes. And we can be on whatever part of that trigger scale also, you know?
Right. Depending if Mercury is going forward or retrograde or, but no. What do you think that people, okay, so keeping your eye on your own lane, keeping yourself in your own lane, being really resilient and versatile, backing things up, having a backup of your,
Diversifying your income streams.
okay,
I really think that's if there's anything we can learn from the five, if there's any, there's a lot we can learn from the fives. But it is that like business and money is actually not that hard. It really is not. And it is also that thing, Mercury's, I think like alchemy is quicksilver, like
yeah,
the material or element or whatever. And quicksilver just like it runs wherever, you know, it's directed and it's, you know, it can like, you can scatter it, but you can also just pour it in and it will like attach itself to itself. Like when you look at quicksilver, it's never like uh, separated into different things and then you can't combine it again. So like I think the lesson here is business and selling and making money can be easy. Don't overthink it. And also like I mean this is also from like a business owner perspective, anything can be sold. We are
right.
surrounded by wealth. I like even the, and I think if people are watching or listening to this, like we are surrounded by wealth and we should be really grateful. And if you have moments where you feel like you have no money or you have no way out or like you're backed into a corner, look around and look at all the ways that you could be making money. You know, unclaimed invoices, things to sell on eBay, like the energy of the five is you got to unkink your hose. Like sometimes when we think we're stuck, it's just there's a kink in our hose. We just need to unkink it. And I think that's also like, you know, sometimes we just need a little nudge to feel like we're on the right track. And sometimes that's, I know it's very basic, but like selling something on Facebook Marketplace and getting some cash in hand and suddenly being like, huh, that wasn't so hard.
Right.
So like the basic energy is like just, I mean, go for the low hanging fruit. Do the easy things. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't think you need to be an expert at almost anything to do it. And if you are an expert, great, raise your prices. Uh,
Yeah.
so like the five energy is just such an easy like connect and pitch. And that also goes to like if you have a normal job and you think, or like a steady paycheck and you think, oh, it's not the right time to ask for a raise. It is most certainly the right time to ask for a raise. Gather your receipts, gather your proof of the value you bring, and ask for a raise. And if they say no, say, okay, when can we talk about this again?
Right.
Like there is no real no. There is only not right now.
Right.
So have faith that like also money and energy and connection and exchange is coming, and you're just setting yourself up for success. This is very much like a setting yourself up for success year.
I love that too because that's like the kind of fire that came into this year with me was just like, come on, let's just get this done. Let's just do this. No more messing around anymore. It's like I always feel like five is at the top of like a big triangle. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it can either roll backwards or roll forwards. And I'm the
Mm,
one that's like pushing the cart, like, come on,
yeah.
let's go forward. So, what do you think about generosity and the number five? Or do you feel like that's a little bit outside of the spectrum? Like exchange
No,
can,
it's there because part of creating, and I know I talk a lot about income, but I also mean income in terms of connections and gratitude, and like wealth is everything, physical wealth, but also like emotional wealth and generational wealth and all of these things. And we just want to tip the scale so we have enough momentum to keep going in whatever direction we're going. And I think,
hopefully forward.
um, yeah, tithing, is that the word when you give part of your income?
Mhm.
Yeah, I would say that's one of the, I mean, I build social consciousness into my business. So we plant trees and we um, fund organizations that work on ending modern slavery and trafficking and stuff like that. And I think that that helps me as a business owner to, for example, not lower my prices because I'm like, if I take a cut, they take a cut. If
That's
I take a
amazing.
cut, that's less trees planted, that's less organic produce bought, that's less people saved from slavery. So by building it into my business, I make it kind of impossible for myself to undervalue what I do because part of what I do is helping others. So sometimes I also feel like generosity is like you accept as much as you can so you can pass it on to others. And I mean, build it into things because some people work for their children. They want to pass it on. That's their legacy. They want to make sure that their children are okay. Some people are not going to have children for whatever reason. Maybe they don't even want children. So they're going to pass on a different kind of legacy. And I think legacy building is a very strong motivator of like being generous with whatever you want to leave behind or whatever kind of impact you want to have in this lifetime. So if that's a really good trigger for you, something that goes like, ooh, I should charge more for this. Or maybe you want, I mean, also people who use scaling
I got
pricing in their business to be able to serve more people. Well, that often means that you have to charge more for a certain level of service to be able to provide lower priced offerings. So, I mean, being generous is actually like a really good buffer to think into your life. Like also, I mean, being generous also means that we are usually generous when we feel rich.
mhm. Sure.
So how can you feel rich by being generous? Like looking at the mechanics of it. Um, I remember when I lived in New York, one of the mechanics that made me feel rich was that I wanted to always have cash on me to give to people who were asking for money on the street because I was like, I knew what it would take for me. I mean, not that this ever happened, but I knew what it would take for me to have to ask for money on the street. So I was like, I'm not going to question their motivation. I just want money in my wallet for if and when they ask, and I want to give it freely. And I don't want to feel bad, because to me, there is nothing worse than that feeling of like trying to avoid someone's gaze, or pretending
Right.
you're on the phone, or having to say, no, I have no cash. And we're all different. I'm not saying that everyone needs to do that, but I was like, wow, this is one of the ways that I feel rich.
Right.
And I had no income when I lived in New York in the beginning, because I was an international student, so I couldn't work. But I was like, this is part of my monthly contribution to being in this country, is like that I want to be able to, I mean, and it was nothing when you think about it, like giving money to people on the street as part of your budget for it, make yourself feel rich, circulate the money, you know.
Well, and I like exactly that, circulate the money, because for me, that circulation gets rid of that kink in the hose that you were talking about
Yeah.
earlier.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
totally an in one hand, out the other hand. Because if you're always putting it in the bucket, then the universe is like, oh, you have a bucket full. You don't need any more. On to the next person. Or you're
Yeah, and
having
it's,
this
I
like,
mean, make money to pass it on. You
yeah,
know, whatever is your jam, whatever it is that you love spending money on, spend money really happily on that, and then disregard the rest. You know, if it's like you really love your Starbucks coffee every day, great, do that. And then cut out whatever does not really give you pleasure that you spend
right,
mindless money on, you know? Like, it's, be mindful. That's also like direct the energy where you want it to go.
exactly.
Be happy with the checks you write.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this is all really awesome manifestation stuff, exactly what you're talking about. So, tithing, number one, being generous, spending money that makes you feel rich, even if it's just a little tiny bit of money, what other people might consider a tiny bit of money. You know, some people, for them, it's like giving somebody $1 is giving a lot of money. But at the same
Yeah, and
time,
it's also, I mean, any, it doesn't have to be monetary. Like, sometimes I think when I need to go through my stuff and I need to donate or sell or whatever, my question is not always like how much money could I get for this thing, but it like, would it make me feel rich to gift it
right,
instead of spending X amount of hours trying to sell it?
right,
You know, sometimes actually giving valuable things away and knowing that they will be used and treasured is better than trying to claw back
right,
whatever investment, because you already spend the money. You know, that's why you're surrounded by wealth. Whatever you're surrounded by, like, it's money already spent. You're already wealthy. You're surrounded by these things. So now you can share it with the world. If it's no longer your thing, then you can pass it on. So sometimes when people are like, oh, but I have no like cash to circulate, I'm like, but I'm sure you got some stuff you're not using in your garage. Is there any way that it should just be, you know, I remember when I moved from Denmark to the US, I had to get rid of a stove and a fridge, and I lived on the 6th floor of a walk up. And I gave them away. And I have never been more grateful than when two strong men came and lifted that giant fridge and walked it down the stairs. And I was like, you know what? This is also wealth.
yeah,
That was just wonderful to me, that I could give it to someone who would, you know, hopefully really enjoy that fridge, but also I didn't have to carry it. So like, you know, like also for energetically making money or making the flow work, is like, is there any way you can make it as easy as possible? And sometimes that's letting people lift heavy things out of your life that are expired decisions, or things where you're like, spend the money, don't want it anymore.
right,
Yeah.
right. Yep. Wonderful. So if people, I'm like, okay, we have to. If you're on Clubhouse, we'll have to have a like a conversation in there
I just
someday.
signed up. I'm trying to figure it out. Yes.
Yeah, me too. So I'll try and find you on there. But if people are looking for you, how can they find you? So you're
So
at
they,
Nova. Oh, sorry.
yes, novaleewilder.com. I am also on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, what have you, as Novalee Wilder. I wrote a book called A Little Bit of Numerology. I have a podcast called The Numerology Podcast. And I run a school teaching numerology as well. So anything with numerology, learning about yourself, learning about the energy behind your name. We didn't get into that, but like that's another layer of this. If you want to know the forecast for 2021, I have that too, and I have a blog. So yeah, novaleewilder.com is the best place to start.
Okay, good. Thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, I would love to have you on again because I think I had like distracted you from all of your like we were supposed to talk about 2021 predictions, but we kind of did in the
I
beginning.
think we did. I think we talked about the energy, and then it became a little preachy about money and creating wealth. But it's one of those things that I'm passionate about because it's one of those things that really stop people when they feel like they don't have the power to change things on like an actual like monetary level. Where I'm like, you always have money, and I know that's such a triggering thing to say, but we always do have options, and 2021 will also teach us that you do have options.
That's awesome. So yeah, and again, I will have to have you on because I'm like, and then we could talk about this and this and this and this. But no, and that's one of the things that I started Spiritual Business Spotlight about was to help spiritual entrepreneurs because I feel like there are people like you and I who understand the value of like changing society through wealth and through different means of distributing wealth, through different means of acquiring wealth ourselves, and from different ways of thinking about wealth.
Yes.
So I think that it's a really important conversation to have, even though it might have just switched a little bit, but I'm glad that you did that. So, or we did that.
We covered a lot of ground. I will say that. We just covered a lot of ground.
Good.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really fun also.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And I will send you a link and everything. We'll talk about that after we're done. But thank you everybody for tuning in. Again, Novalee Wilder, professional numerologist. You can find her at www.novaleewilder.com. And she could do your numerology charts and write-ups and tell you a lot about yourself, especially your name and if you're thinking about changing your name.
That's a whole yes. Yes. Name changes are my jam.
Okay, yep, good. So again, thanks so much. I appreciate having you on and we will talk soon.
Yes. Thank you. Yay.
Okay.